Welcome back to the Athlete's Porch. Sitting here breaking down some things that can be relatable to athletes. I want to be able to use my experience, what I've learned from others, and pass it along to you to help your experience. Maybe you don't make the same mistakes as other people. Maybe you want to mimic a little bit more of the great ones. Maybe it's taking business mental models into creating them a sport. Favorite quotes, favorite leaders, favorite books. That's what I'm trying to help pass along to you from this. I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe if you can. That would be huge. I'd love to grow the audience on YouTube specifically. But today we're going to talk about the scoreboard. Every game you compete, every game has one. But I'm talking about a different scoreboard. I'm talking about the inner scorecard. Okay? The inner scoreboard. First, the outer scorecard or the outer scoreboard. And if you think about this, is that every time that we play our game, or shoot, if you're in business, every time you do something that's competitive, there's typically a scoreboard, or there's a winner and a loser. And oftentimes in sport, you could have a really good process, you could have a really good game, if you will, but you get nothing to show for. That sucks. It is so defeating mentally when that happens to us, right? Use a sport like baseball. It is, you go out there and you're an offensive player and you line out 3 times right to the defender. You're 0 for 3. You got 0 hits. So your stats or your baseball card or the internet, the box score is going to say 0 for 3. And so if Joe Schmo's reading that off the next day, he's going to be like, oh, little Johnny sucked last night. He went 0 for 3. But if you fall into that trap of saying, oh, I went 0 for 3, as opposed to I rocketed 3 balls and they just got lucky and I had 3 quality at-bats, which one sounds better? Well, the latter, the rocketed 3, I got 3 quality at-bats. If you think about it on a quality at-bat spectrum, it's like I was 3 for 3 quality at-bats. That's 1,000. But if you look at it as the outside, the outer scorecard, you were 0 for 3. Demoralizing. That's tough. Think about that compounded over a full season, which we'll get into the compound and how to use that to our advantage. But the where I got the outer scorecard, inner scorecard is from one of my heroes, Warren Buffett. He doesn't know I'm his hero. He's many people's heroes. He has one of the most successful investors of all time, and really the GOAT, the OG of it, before all these other ones have come along. But he shared, him and his partner, Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, passed away a year ago, has shared all of their insights. And one of them specifically is this inner scorecard, outer scorecard. And there's one of his quotes on the topic of this, breaking down and explaining inner scorecard, outer scorecard, is Buffett says, he says, I'll look here, as he said, would you rather be known as the worst lover in the world, but eternally know you're the best? Or would you rather be known as the best lover in the world, but eternally know you're the worst? And then he relates it to investor. Would you rather be known as the best investor in the world, but inside you know you're the worst? Or would you flip it? Would you rather be known as the worst investor to everybody else, but inside be known as the best? Or in sport, would you rather be known as the MVP of the league, but really you're the worst? Or would you rather be the MVP of the league, but just not have the title on it? Right? And think of a runner-up MVP. That person in whatever sport has the best season, one of the best seasons of their career, but they don't win it. They don't get labeled it. And the label is the outer scorecard. It's what we want as validation. It's kind of the social media trap of like, oh, it's a ranking. It's part of the box score. It's an uncontrollable, really. Somebody else is trying to judge you for what you've done or what you don't do. But here's where the pillow test comes into play. And I first heard about the pillow test from Penn Murphy. Penn Murphy's a Major League Baseball player, coached him at Santa Clara, got drafted. Great story. Unbelievable young man. Shout out Penn. I'll send you this, and so you could watch this and know that, shoot, I coached you, I helped recruit you to Santa Clara, but that pillow test, man, that stuck with me since our conversation a couple years ago, is that when you lay down at nighttime and you rest your head, what are you thinking about? There's a lot of thoughts that go through our minds, right? There's specifically on a game day, you're thinking about the success or the failure you had. And when we can be at most peace and we can get to sleep, essentially the quickest and effortlessly how we want to, is if we believe that we stuck to our process. Because that's what the Inner Scorecard is. I do everything in my power to put myself in the best position to succeed. Because when I start to talk to athletes and they start to get in the system about the mindset game, is when they start to, when I first know of a player's turning the corner, is they start to talk the lingo, right? And as a coach, when players are starting to buy in, they talk the lingo. That's what leaders do, right? The coach, there's the head coach, there's the assistant coach, then there's the leaders of a team, and then there's everybody else, the rest of the team. The message from the top has to be similar to all the way down the line. When that player specifically starts to echo the lingo, then you know he's bought in. And the longer he can continue to stick with that lingo of that process talk, the better the team and that individual is going to be. I'll give you a couple examples. Last year during the spring baseball season, I was working with some players leading up to that season for 4 or 5 months, through the winter, this time exactly, winter time, into the spring. There's one player specifically on the postgame interview, which they sent over to me. It was like, the reporter asked, what were you thinking when you got the game-winning hit? Or what were you thinking when you guys won the championship? And their lingo was on par with what they believed, their process, the Inner Scorecard. Is the player responded and he said, I was just trying to trust my work. I was just trying to stick with quality at bats. I was just trying to control what I could during the game and be a good communicator to my team. And that, with that individual specifically aligned with his affirmations and what he believed. And that right there, I knew that that young man was continuing on the path. And still to this day, 6 to 8 months later, that player's still talking the lingo. And he's still believing in his process. And when doubt comes in, or when the outer scorecard starts to kind of boggle the mind a little bit, which it's normal that will happen, okay, we're human beings, then all of a sudden, he sticks with his inner scorecard. I know that that's going to work out for me. I know that if I just stick with what I do, it'll work out. So that's an example of not getting trapped within other people's process, other people's validation. And with social media a lot is like, you don't see the process. And that's where I'm seeing these podcasts come out with great players. I'm thinking specifically like Tom Brady, right? Like Tom Brady is a GOAT. That guy was a sick competitor, but now he's coming out with the story of the process and training mental, and we're seeing that across the board in all sports. Novak Djokovic, he had a 2-minute or 2-hour podcast about his mental game, and people are starting to see the other side of the process. Think back like 5-7 years ago, where it's just like all we're seeing on social media is highlights. And if maybe your algorithm is still highlights. My algorithm is process. And so if you surround yourself with it, you're going to get more of it. That's currently what my feeds are like. But it's beautiful to see people talk about the process. And so when we have our process working, is we have to make sure that our narrative, you're the author, right? You write your story. You write the book. But here's an example that you might be able to relate to this, or send this to somebody who could relate to this. It's like, because I know I did. There were certain times when it's like, for example, I would talk to a major league hitter. I'm not going to say his name, but be like, hey, where'd you like playing? Where'd you like hitting at? He mentioned a couple stadiums, Boston, Petco Park, San Diego. I was like, where did you not like hitting? And he's like, Oracle Park, Wrigley Field. Actually, he didn't say Wrigley Field. That was one where he raked. There was another one out there, but I'm like, I wonder why that is. But if you think about this, that's what we keep telling ourselves. I don't play well here. I don't play well here. I can relate on the golf course. Oh, on this hole, I always hit it out here. And when we see that hole or when we see that field, there's automatic association. And here's a real example is I started working with an athlete last month. And I got on a call with them to learn about them, see if we were fit to work together. And I'm like, why do you guys feel like why are you here? Why do you feel like you need help on the mental game? And they said, like, he trains hard, he's great. And this is the parent talking. It's like, but when he gets on the field, it's just not the same. He puts too much pressure on himself. He doesn't perform how he should, like in practice. Man, that is so common. That is so common out there. And so we end up working together, right? In the first call with the athlete alone, not the parent, I said, what do you want to get out of this from me? And he's like, I'm like, what is a weakness of yours? After we went through some strengths and some other questions, I'm like, what is a weakness of yours? And he says, I can't translate it to the field. I work really hard, I do the right things, but then all of a sudden, when it gets go time, I just put extra pressure on myself and I tense up a little bit. Well, I thought to myself, I said, time out. I said, this is the same thought that your dad said on the call. And now you're saying the same thing. So alert, parents, alert. Like what you say at home, your kid's going to say also. And that was the story under their roof, is I can't do it on the field. Well, I said, okay, first things first. Let's change the narrative. Let's change the way you think. Let's trigger your mind to think differently. Let's rewire your brain. Say it however you want to say it. So we came up with some affirmations. And we said, the past is the past. I'm a new player. When I get on the field, I will excel. Failure is just feedback for me. It doesn't represent who I am. I will embrace failure. I will have confidence on the field, and I will play free. And ever since then, he's been saying that to himself out loud. That's when it works. Like I have the players that try to keep it internal. It doesn't work. The data, the science says out loud matters most. And so that player now, a month into it, is new confidence. He hasn't even stepped foot on a field. Kidding me? But I could hear it in his voice. He's rewriting his story. And I told the parents, do not bring up that he cannot play or it changes on the field. Do not say that. That's not the right thing to say. And so we have to flip our mindset. So if you start to think about, oh, I'm worried about what they think, flip that. I believe in what I do. My pillow test is real. I'm confident in my ability. I will trust my own process. I don't care what other people think. It doesn't matter. I'm on my own journey. Let's go through it. Let's grow through it. Not go through it. Let's grow through it. And then what we have to do is we have to compound all that. We have to say, hey, if my development was a 20-year development plan, and I want you to think like that, wherever you're at, 20 years from now, I'm going to hit my cap. That's my ceiling. This season is just one season of the 20. And every year I'm going to get better and better and better and better for 20 years. And then we work backwards, right? This year specifically, I'm going to get better. This month specifically, I'm going to get better. This week specifically, I'm going to get better. Today, I'm going to get better. This rep, I'm going to get better. And you let that compound over and over. And then each day becomes a learning moment for us. And that's really important. And we have to say, how does this rep today help me for the next one? How did today help me for tomorrow? How did this week help me for next week? How did this month help me for next month? And we continue to break it down. So that's what it's about, is continue to grow. Believe in your inner scorecard. Understand that this is a process and we're playing the long game of life. I hope this makes sense. I hope this resonates. Send this to somebody. Double down, triple down, quadruple down on your own process on that inner scorecard. It doesn't matter what they think out there. It just matters what you believe. Go sleep well tonight on that pillow. Subscribe right here. Send this to somebody. I'm going to have a hell of a time doing this. We'll talk soon.